Curricular approaches in special education, developmental, functional, eclectic and universal design for learning approach. We shall see about the various approaches to curriculum development. There are many approaches to curriculum development. They differ by the various perspectives that curriculum developers construct regarding the key curricular elements, curriculum, teachers, students and the context. There are some curricular developers who focus on the students and the learning goals, whereas others focus on the effect of teachers' action upon learning. Still others focus on the context of learning and the degree to which individuals are viewed autonomously or as the objects upon which the work of the curriculum is acted. The development of the curriculum is an integrated part of a healthy educational program. Let us glance at the various curricular approaches for students with visual impairment. Approaches to curriculum in special education. The following are the approaches to curriculum in special education. First one, it is a concept of developmental approach. Curriculum is not static and is dynamic and constantly changes according to the changing needs, demands and aspirations of society. Modern curriculum consists of multiplicity of the subjects and varieties of activities and experiences. The curriculum is initiated as a teacher visualize that what might occur in a classroom, tentatively answering their own questions about the subject matter, material, student learning activities, timetable and other aspects related to the future option. Curriculum development can be considered as the behavioral dimensions of the curriculum management. There are many dimensions which have to be addressed while developing curriculum. One of the dimensions is development of human being. Curriculum should be designed to cater the different developmental needs of an individual at different stages of development. The basic needs of an individual may differ from stage to stage, hence all needs have to be considered in curriculum for any stage. In order to develop a suitable curriculum which would help people to play an active role in individual and social life, certain principles are to be kept in view while selecting the curriculum material. The characteristics or principles of developmental approach. Developmental needs of an individual may be broadly dependent on the certain principles. These are: first, developmental involves changes. Human development includes qualitative as well as quantitative challenges. Change in emotional control ability of learning are considered as qualitative changes, whereas change in the size of the body, shape of the body and changes in various organs of the body are considered as quantitative changes. Both changes result in acquisition of genetic and environmental potential. One can say that both changes result in overall development of the human being. Development as a product of maturation and learning. Development is considered as a product of maturation and learning. Both the processes ensure the development of child in all dimensions through maturation and learning. Maturation and learning are mainly dependent upon interaction with the environment which is responsible for proper development. Development patterns are predictable. Prenatal and postnatal development patterns are having specific sequence which is predictable. Such patterns can be broadly classified into cephalocaudal pattern and proximodistal pattern. Both patterns are considered as directional. It has been observed that the pattern followed during prenatal stage is the same as in the case of postnatal stage. Next, early development is more critical than the later development. Many psychologists have proved through their researches that the development that occur in early stages of life are more critical than those that development occur in later stage of life. At the early stage, the human being is more sensitive to grasp a knowledge from the surroundings and to make a habit. Individual difference in development. Though the developmental patterns are similar, the rate of development differs from each other. This is due to the individual differences between two human beings. Development involves utility and flexibility. The curriculum maker should look into the future and anticipate the requirements in the curriculum. There should be flexibility for individual difference and adaptation to individual needs and interests. That is why diversified curriculum has been advocated at the higher secondary stage after core subjects have been taught. Developmental consideration in curriculum planning. Curriculum should be designed to enhance the pace of development in desired direction. Heredity and environment are two important bases of development of a human being. By interaction between these two bases, physical, mental, social development takes place. There are many factors which can affect the development of a child in direct or indirect manner, like culture, intelligence, sex. These factors should also be considered while designing curriculum. The physical development imposes its effects on mental and social development too. Hence, the physical development is considered as an important factor from educational point of view. In designing curriculum, the physical development should be given due weightage to ensure proper educational development. Next, mental development considerations. Mental development means the development of mental abilities which include sensational, perception, concept formation, thinking, reasoning, intelligence, learning, memory, attention and many other cognitive abilities. All these mental abilities are considered significant for education development of a child. Contents of the curriculum should be designed to establish relationship between cognitive development and curriculum itself. Social development consideration. At the time of birth, the social development of a child is considered nil, but as the physical and mental development takes place, social development also takes place. The child starts establishing relationship with his or her parents, family members, friends, etc. as a result of which he learns the basic social traditions and beliefs to adjust himself in social environment. By this process, the social development for a child starts. The process of social development ensures the social adaptation by acquiring social equities by which he learns the process of contacting others for acquiring social beliefs, values, ideals and ideals. Emotional development consideration. Emotions help in physical, mental and social development of a child. Abnormal emotional development can damage the process of development of a human being. Emotions are directly related to the affective domain of life. The emotions originate mainly due to some psychological factors. Education also has its effect on emotional development of a child. The different component of curriculum can make sure the appropriate emotional development of a child through education. Various curricular and co-curricular activities should be designed in an appropriate manner for improving the emotional development of a child. Let us glance at the effects of disability of developments. The effects of disability are numerous, which can be further classified into two main categories, which are primary implications and secondary implications. The primary and secondary implications of the disabled child can cause their diverse effect on disabled person. Research in the area of special education reveal that at the critical stage, the physical development of a disabled child gets retarded, but at the later stage, this difference in physical development becomes insignificant and the disabled person comes at par with non-disabled in terms of physical development. But in case of mental, social and emotional development, the difference between disabled and non-disabled are remarkably at variance. This is basically due to the fact that in the case of physical development, only the primary implications have their effects, and in the case of social, emotional and mental development, the primary as well as the secondary implications both play a role in affecting these areas. For children with visually impaired, curriculum should be developed separately rather than certain modifications have to be made. These modifications should be made in the delivery pattern of curriculum. Such modified system should not be based on visual ideas in which vision is essentially required. In addition to general curriculum, some additional component of curriculum should also be a part of it. As a visually impaired child can be classified into two major categories, that is blind and low vision. Curriculum development should take place on their residential senses, including residual vision. The development process of such a disabled child may retard at the initial stage of life. Thus, while developing curriculum, this retarded development should be kept in mind. Next is functional curriculum approach. When you look at the concept of functional curriculum approach, it is an approach and it is a way of delivering instructional content that focuses on the concept and skills needed by all the students with disabilities in the areas of personal, social daily living and occupational adjustments. What is considered a functional curriculum for any one student would be the content which includes concepts and skills included in that student's curriculum. They are the course of study that targets his or her current and future needs. These needs are based on non-discriminatory functional assessment approach. Now, what is functional curriculum? The functional curriculum is a process where experiences and activities are selected for each student to gain the skills that he or she will need to become as competent as possible in a regular environment as an adult. The process changes as the needs of the student being taught change. This becomes more essential as the student gets closer to graduation, but it is an approach to instruction that should begin in elementary grades. It is a curriculum in which the student learns functional skills in the most appropriate setting for specific skill acquisition and focuses on present and future needs. Now, coming to the aspects of functional approach. The aspects of functional approach includes changes in behavior after giving education in three major areas as quoted by Benjamin S. Bloom. The areas of behavior modifications are cognitive domain, affective domain and psychomotor domain. Now, what are the functional approach for persons with disability? Disability includes a vast variety in which different types of limitations are encountered by the disabled person. For example, visually impaired persons have the limitations regarding the functioning about visual ideas. Hence, the activities in which vision is essential could not be functionalized by visually impaired person. It does not mean that curriculum should be made by omitting the visual ideas from the curriculum, but the need is to change the visual ideas into non-visual experiences. Delivery system of the curriculum should be designed in such a manner so that the visually impaired children can make full use of their residual senses. Thus, we can say that functionally we should not separate the curriculum for disabled and non-disabled, but the only need is to deliver the contents in such a manner so that their disabling condition cannot act as a hindrance. A visually disabled child in the regular class is one among the children of that class. The curriculum meant for visually disabled children of the integrated education programs should be more unlike than that of the sighted children. Since most of the information is received by the visually disabled child through touch and hearing, the experiences must be planned to facilitate these children to acquire at least the near normal experience despite the loss of vision. In view of this, there is no need for a special curriculum for visually impaired children in the integrated education programs, but special approaches are necessary. Plus curriculum can be treated as compensatory curriculum in addition to general curriculum. In light of this, the curriculum for visually disabled children may be as follows. Now, general curriculum with modified experiences. The general curriculum which contains more visual experiences and less non-visual experiences must be analyzed to convert the visual experience to non-visual experiences for the betterment of the concept development in the visually disabled child. For example, 4 significant steps are suggested. The 4 steps are given in the hierarchy of preferred arrangement of educational experience. We should try to duplicate experience, but since we can't always, so we have to modify the experience sometimes in terms of content, method of display, type of the material used, response expectations from the child. Sometimes there is no suitable means of modification and we must therefore substitute one kind of lesson for the visually disabled child which as closely as possible approximates the one presented to his sighted peers. But even then, and especially in the early days, we may sometimes omit a lesson. These 4 steps are very important in giving the experience to the visually disabled child through tactile material. It has found over experience that the higher the academic standard, the easier that material can be produced exactly. Most omissions occur during the first year in page layout and pictorial content in the embossed form. More modifications are required and less duplicate experience is afforded. This pattern shifts quickly and no time at all. Omissions are rare. Substitutes are infrequent. Modifications, especially in the page layout, continues to be desirable, but of great importance and more duplicate experiences are possible. Concept of eclectic approach. Eclectic approach is a multi-level conception which is basically a need-based approach. Curriculum designers have not dealt extensively and explicitly with the issue of the need assessment. It is in contrast to the field of educational planning and instructional design, where many different conceptions of need-based approach have created a voluminous literature on the need-based curriculum approach. The assessment of need is a critical and complex issue which includes a more significant component of the process of curriculum development. In this type of approach, teacher can play an important and effective role to ensure learning on the part of the child or the learner. Characteristics of eclectic curriculum. There are the following characteristics of eclectic approach of curriculum. Emphasis variation on information sources. There is a need for assessment required for emphasizing different sources at different levels or stages. The need assessment can be divided into macro and micro level processes of need assessment. Macro level decision making emphasizes on assessment where major thrust is on the subject matter and society as relevant information sources for the purpose of identifying educational needs. In this kind of process, less attention is usually paid to the students, but for the purpose of identifying psychological needs, the micro level need assessment process represent activities which require great emphasis on the students as a data scores for identification of their psychological needs. In micro level need assessment, relatively lesser emphasis is required to be given to subject matter and society. Multiple level of need assessment. Goodlad and Klein propose that need assessment should be undertaken at different levels and stages, each of the level distinguishable by certain unique characteristics which are dynamic and interactive in nature. The need-based curriculum development is highly dynamic process. It is a principal contention of this model that dominant views on curriculum development which exclusively focus on the planning stage are consonant with traditional means like N's conception of curriculum. Data variation. The need-based curriculum development model incorporates and encourages the utilization of different types of data which can be in the form of quantitative, qualitative or imperative in nature. Each type of data is best suited to the process of acquiring information regarding needs or decision making process at specific level. Based on these characteristics, a conceptual model of multi-level curriculum developmental approach can be designed. Now coming to the universal design for learning approach. Universal design for learning provides the opportunity for the students to access, participate in and progress in the general education curriculum by reducing barriers to instruction. By facilitating the design and implementation of a flexible responsive curriculum, universal design learning offers options for how information is presented, how students respond or demonstrate their knowledge and skills, and how students are engaged in learning. Universal design learning implementation provides the opportunity for all the students to access, participate in and progress in the general education curriculum by reducing the barriers to instruction. The following can be the principles of the universal design learning. The universal design learning framework values diversity through proactive design of an inclusive curriculum, thereby eliminating or reducing barriers to academic success. Initially proposed as a means for including students with disability in the general education classroom, it is now better understood as a general education initiative that improves outcomes for all learners. Universal Design Learning addresses the three learning networks within a broadly defined concept of curriculum that includes goals, materials, methods and assessment. According to the following three principles, each of the area curriculum should provide multiple varied and flexible options for representation, expression and engagement. The following are the three principles. The principle 1 provides multiple means of representation, which is nothing but the recognition network. Second principle provides multiple means of action and expression, which involves strategic network. The third principle provides multiple means of engagement, which is nothing but the affective network. The four interrelated components of the Universal Design Learning curriculum requires further explanation. It involves the following. 1. Goals are typically described as learning expectations. They represent the knowledge, concepts and skills students need to master and are usually aligned to state standards. Recent national discussions about Common Core curriculum have heightened the critical importance of linking goals in individualized educational program with state standards and classroom expectations. Second, methods are generally defined as the instructional strategies used by educators to support student learning. Methods should be evidence-based and supported by an analysis of learner variability. Universal Design Learning methods are flexible and adjusted through consistent monitoring of student progress. Third, the materials. They are the media used to present content and demonstrate learning. They offer materials which are related to multimedia options and include embedded supports. The last is the assessment within the Universal Design Learning framework, which refers to the process of gathering information about a learner's progress using a variety of methods and materials. Universal Design Learning assessments are particularly concerned with accurately measuring learner knowledge, skills and engagement by maintaining construct relevance and reducing or eliminating irrelevant or distracting elements that interfere with assessment's validity. The purpose of Universal Design Learning implementation is to create expert learners, the learners who can assess their own learning needs, monitor their own progress and regulate and sustain their interest, effort and persistence during a learning task. Many students learn within traditional classroom with a traditional curriculum. Applying Universal Design Learning within a classroom or for a caseload of students start with three initial steps. 1. To define appropriate goals that allow for multiple means of attainment, to assess diverse learner needs, and last to evaluate barriers that may exist within the current curriculum. Defining appropriate goals. In today's high stakes accountability systems, standardized goals sometimes include the means for achieving the standard within the goal itself. For example, a goal that requires all students to identify the elements of a fiction which has problem, solution, character and setting, analyze how major events lead from problem to solution. In establishing student goals, then it is important that they are aligned to state standards, yet also defined in a manner that allows students multiple ways to demonstrate the goals that have been met. Assessing diverse learner needs. All learners have strengths, weaknesses and preferred areas of interest with the context of learning environment. Using a Universal Design Learning lens, speech-language pathologists and other educators can also identify the strength, needs and interests of the individual students across three learning networks, that is recognition, action and expression and engagement. They also combine them into an UDL class group profile. Who are these students? How do they learn best? What strengths, cultural backgrounds, learning styles and interests do they bring to the learning situation? What forms of communication do they use? How do they execute a plan for learning? What are these talents? So, these help in the framing of the universal design learning. The next is evaluating curriculum barriers. Most curricula which are designed as if all the students learn in the same way. In reality, the idea of a typical learner is a myth. Likewise, barriers to learners may not be present within students, but rather in the intersection of students and the curriculum. By analyzing the characteristics outlined in a universal design class or a group profile in the light of the flexible methods and materials offered through the UDL approach, the short learning programs and other educators can move beyond identifying the individual learning difficulties to focus on and addressing the barriers that exist within the curriculum. When provided with the right tools for accessing and understanding information and content, what is of interest, students with diverse learning profiles can find appropriate challenges, engage in the learning situation and progress. The CAST Curriculum Barriers tool is a free practical tool that shows how to conduct analysis of the curriculum barriers. So, to conclude, the various types of the approaches of curriculum and universal design learning plays a vital part in methodology of the learning of visually impaired children. Thank you.